by this man, Tanner Kern. He's been joining me all throughout the NBA playoffs. Does a great job taking a look at this for DraftKings and so much more. And he's sticking with the Florida theme. We've got really the state of Florida being the epicenter right now of the sports world, because you've got the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals, Game 3 and 4, both over there. And you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shirt on if you're Tanner. And Tanner, always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, Greg, thanks for having me on my DraftKings show today. I wore a Jaguars jersey. I figured I'd keep the same theme tonight with the Buccaneers polo. You know, Dalvin Cook getting released today, that's pretty interesting. So very excited for football, but we got a lot to talk about in the NBA and the MLB world.
Absolutely. And hey, if you're looking at college basketball, Florida pulling in Zion Poland over the last 48 hours. Top scorer from UC Riverside, one of the biggest names in the transfer portal. Florida Atlantic makes the Final Four. So, I mean, all good things, it seems like, are happening in Florida, but sometimes all good things have to come to an end. And I fear that that might be the case for the Miami Heat sooner rather than later, as we've seen this Game 4 line get seamed up a little bit, as the opener was the Miami Heat being a 3-point underdog at home. Now we're seeing this up to a 3.5, with the total being relatively stagnant. Open up right around 211, finding it anywhere between 210.5 and 211. And I take a look at this Miami Heat team, and I mean, it's a make-or-miss league, and it's going to be a make-or-miss series for them. We saw them in Game 2 just go absolutely bonkers from three-point range, and I really think that that's the only way that the Miami Heat are going to be able to pull off a win, because I just saw it in Game 3, and what got really buried, in my opinion, with the 30-point triple-doubles of Nikola Jokic and also Jamal Murray, along with what we saw to Christian Brown late, the Miami Heat got completely pummeled on the glass, and I don't think that that's anything that's going to change here in the series.
No, every time Nikola Jokic touches the ball in the paint, it's going in the hoop. I mean, that's what we've seen throughout this entire series. And I'll tell you what, I lost total faith in the Heat by one series of events in this game. Nikola Jokic was posting up Kyle Lowry and Gabe Vincent consistently throughout this game. The Heat had no answer for him down low. You can only put Bam Adebayo on him so much. There's things that the Nuggets were doing that was forcing Lowry and Vincent to be the guys posting him up and defending him, and that's just simple mismatch. It's always going to go in favor of Nikola Jokic. The one way that the Heat have survived throughout the entire postseason is by making their threes. We saw it against the Celtics as they broke their back down the stretch of the Eastern Conference Finals. If they can't make their threes, they're going to get blown off the floor. It's as simple as that. If they make them, they can be competitive, but I still give the advantage to the Denver Nuggets. We look back to the sole game that Miami has won the series so far in Game 2. It was really because Denver just didn't play well. There were a lot of defensive breakdowns, and that's what led to Miami winning that basketball game more than the Heat just shooting 45% from the three-point line, right? If they come out and they're efficient from the three-point line, they have a chance to be in it, but as long as Denver just plays their game, Miami could shoot 50% from the three-point line and still lose because they're just outmatched. Nikola Jokic is fantastic, the first 30-20-10 game in NBA Finals history. I think we're going to see that, maybe not that same stature again in this game, but he's going to be dominant, and Miami doesn't have an answer for him, and that's why you got to lean towards the Nuggets at -3.5 here.
Yep, I am right there with you. I am looking at the Nuggets as well, and how much do you think that the just toll of the playoffs is playing on Jimmy Butler, because he just has not been able to do a ton in this series, as it just doesn't look like the same Jimmy Butler that we saw at the beginning of the postseason. And that's really, in my opinion, killing the Miami Heat, because he'll be a scorer one night but not really do a whole lot else. And then the next night, he'll give you just not a lot of scoring. He'll do a little bit more facilitation, but it's not that well-rounded game that we saw earlier in the playoffs.
There's no killer mentality from Jimmy Butler, and that's the biggest issue for this Miami Heat team right now. He was the guy throughout this entire postseason that was going to light a fire under this team. You know what? We look at I think back to the Celtics series against Grant Williams when he got right in his face. That lit a fire under this Miami Heat team, and right now they have no spark. I will say Jimmy Butler's point total dropping down to 24.5 in Game 3 was slightly disrespectful. I definitely hammered that. I thought Jimmy was going to have a big night, but still, he was one of the best he's been throughout this entire series. He shot 45% from the field, and he still only finished with 28 points. The killer mentality was not there. And I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's going to come out. And that's why you can't trust him to score moving forward. You can't trust this Miami Heat team to do anything on offense because he's not facilitating it. You know, guys like Duncan Robinson can only do so much for your team. Guys like Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin. You need Jimmy Butler to be the guy to get this team going, and then Bam Adebayo to be the supporting role there. And we just haven't seen it throughout the series.
No, we certainly have not. But what we have been seeing is some incredible performances from Jamal Murray. As joining me on the show, we've got Tanner Kern. He does absolutely tremendous work at DraftKings. As joining me right here on the Greg Peterson Experience on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And I know you're looking at a little bit of a prop when it comes to Jamal Murray. The scoring has come and gone with him a little bit, but all in all, he's been a constant in terms of just having his fingerprints on the game one way or the other with the Denver Nuggets. And I know you're looking at a prop that isn't involved with scoring with him.
This is my favorite prop for Jamal Murray, over 7.5 assists. And the reason for it is how good Nikola Jokic has been down the paint. Murray really doesn't have to do anything fantastic passing the basketball. All he has to do is float it down in the paint to Nikola Jokic, and it's going in. I mean, Jokic was calling for the ball multiple times against Kyle Lowry in the paint. He was calling for it against Gabe Vincent. And that's a total mismatch, and one that Jokic will win 100% of the time. Jamal Murray bringing the ball up the floor. If he is handling the ball in any situation and Jokic is down low with a mismatch, he's just dumping it down there. It's easy assists. Coming off a 10-assist game, I think we're going to see similar numbers to that just because the Miami Heat have no answer for Nikola Jokic. And you shouldn't expect Eric Spoelstra to come up for an answer with him because they don't have one. So that's another reason I do believe Jamal Murray's assist numbers are going to stay high. I still think he's going to be a scorer. I mean, he's been very efficient from the three-point line throughout the entire postseason. That's not going to change. So another place you could look is his PRA as well, but really do love the assist number.
And let me throw this one at you as well, because something that I was throwing out on the show a little bit before is I mentioned the rebound disparity that we saw in Game 3. I don't see any way that the Miami Heat really reverse that unless if they're throwing out there like Omi or your 7 or something like that. And I mean, congratulations, you'd have your rebound numbers go up, but you'd be suffering in other facets of the game. I think that taking a look at someone like an Aaron Gordon to go over 6.5 rebounds is a good look. Christian Brown is at like 2.5 and you're able to get a plus 150. I think looking at some of these ancillary guys to be able to hit the glass for the Nuggets is a relatively good look just because the Nuggets have a clear size advantage, and with the Miami Heat casting away from three-point range so much, it's not allowing them to get second chances.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, the thing I love about Eric Gordon is he plays the game super hard, and this whole Nuggets team plays hard. So when you look at the Miami Heat, they're shooting their three-pointers most of the time, and Eric Spoelstra knows that for them to be in the series, they're going to have to rely on that three-point shot. They're a small team to begin with. They have Bam Adebayo, but when he's not in the game, your big man's Cody Zeller, and that's just embarrassing, Zeller against Nikola Jokic. It's embarrassing Zeller against anyone on this Nuggets team. So, yes, I totally agree with that. I love the secondary players to go over their rebound total. You can definitely get some plus money for that. And there's just a mismatch all over the floor. When you look at Miami, they're just very short. Gabe Vincent, 6'3", Kyle Lowry, 6 feet. He's going to be on the floor a lot. Lowry's coming off the bench, playing 30 minutes. Like, there's a lot of opportunities for the Nuggets to grab rebounds here and then players outside of Nikola Jokic. So I think that's a great take by you.
Yep, and I mean, it wouldn't be any better if you had Tyler Zeller out there, Luke Zeller. I'm sure that he would want some burn as well. You don't want any of the Zellers on your team if you're in the NBA Finals. So I'm in agreement with you there. And I know you've got a little bit of a look on the total, but it's not necessarily for the full game. I know you're taking a look at the first half under. Take me through why you're looking at the first half rather than the full game under.
So the full game under has creeped down throughout every single game in this series. We're down to 210.5 right now. I'd rather play the first half under here just because you're getting a little more value at 106.5. When you look at the Miami Heat, they're one of the slowest starters in basketball, obviously. They don't play great in the first quarter, the second quarter, or the third quarter, but they tend to turn it on in the fourth quarter, and that's going to lead to more points down the stretch as well. Another reason that I'm slightly scared of that full game under is just because when you look at the Miami Heat, they were fouling down 12 to 14 points when they really didn't need to. That just added points on to the Denver Nuggets score with easy free throws. So I think the first half, between the slow starters and the fact that we're not going to see those fouls in the first half, is a reason to play that. This is an under series overall, just because when you look at the Denver Nuggets, they're much better than the Miami Heat. For the Heat to stay with them, they're going to need to shoot three-pointers, and still their pace of play is slow. If they don't make those threes, they're not even going to break 100 points. So really do like the under, and going to lean towards the first half so I don't get hurt by free throws at the end of the game.
Yep, and you could see a scenario like we saw in, game 2, where it was a super slow fourth quarter, but the Miami Heat just buried everything, to your point. So I do like that look, because you could see the Miami Heat just go into inferno mode once again in the fourth quarter with just that last-ditch effort. So I do think that that's a solid look, as Tanner Kern, he does a very much more than solid job at DraftKings. He does a tremendous job at DraftKings, and I know that he does a great job on so many fronts. And coming up next with Tanner, after we took a look at a little bit of NBA action for this Friday, let's dive into the baseball card with him next, right here on the Greg Peterson Experience on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.